This is an incoming transmission from the Jersey Shore.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group. Today you'll hear some of the most important financial information and wealth-building techniques available anywhere.
Let's get this party started, huh?
Do you have a question for Scott and the team?
Am I on the air?
609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646.
We'll get that information to them by radio.
Now, Financial Insanity with Scott McLean.
Nobody likes having regrets, but unfortunately, we all do. Today, Scott McLean, McLean Advisory Group's going to walk us through some of the biggest regrets people have when it comes to their retirement. Hopefully, we can learn something from these past mistakes. I'm your host of Financial Insanity, Alex Dingman. Scott with McLean Advisory Group right here in Waretown, the founder of McLean Advisory Group. Scott, it is always great to see you, my friend. Hope it's been a good start to the year for you.
And I'm so glad our audience was able to join us again. We've got a lot of call-ins. We've got a lot of information for today. And I think the show that you really prepared for me is absolutely amazing for those who are listening. Hope you stay tuned because this is really good. Plus, we have we're setting up the podcast, so you're going to go listen to our later shows. But Alex, you've got a great show that you went over with me, and it's a show that I can tell you people could regret or not regret. And I hope we don't want to go into I don't want you to start grabbing alcohol to make yourself feel better, but how do we move forward? And we're going to talk about that today.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about some common regrets and then later on some retirement risks to avoid. And then, of course, at the end, our mailbag segment. So we're going to get some listener questions. That's always a good time. But
I love it.
As we're talking about regrets, Scott, that people have in retirement, the big one here, probably no surprise, is not having saved enough. Talk about what you see here from folks.
That couldn't be more true. I think your retirement planning is like planting a tree. The best time to do it is what? Many years ago. But people wait because you popping out kids. You're getting married, or then you're popping out kids, some of you.
Right.
And then, of course, you're getting your career. You're looking for bigger pay. So you kind of are moving from one to the other, not thinking, which I've been saying, Alex, in our shows for so many years now, if I could get these young people to save 10% of their gross income. In other words, if you're making $1,000 a week, put $100 away.
Yep.
And that's the biggest regret. Number one, not saving enough and starting too late. And then you start to so you get upset at yourself. And then you start thinking, do I have enough to retire? Am I going to eat cat food? That's really important.
Yeah. And what we see in the numbers, more than 8 in 10 workers over 45 regret not taking retirement saving more seriously when they were younger, to your point there. Fewer than 1 in 4 retirees are very confident they'll be able to maintain a comfortable lifestyle throughout their retirement. And that's just kind of heartbreaking.
It is. And it's not, you don't think, when you're little, you think, when is Christmas going to be here? When's Christmas going to be here? And as you're young, as most of us that are listening right now, Christmas for us is around the corner, but for kids, it's a light years away, which is the same thing as we look at retirement. Here you are 25, 26, maybe you're 40 years old and you want it and you need to put it away. Take that plan, take that time. By the way, 609-488-4646 is a great number to write down if you have questions. Why? Because you're saying, should I? How do I get out of this regret? What's the psychological impact? How should I handle this? Is the market good? Is the market bad? These areas of questioning makes people stop. It's almost like a deer in headlights, and then you never take action. And this is why it's so important to have someone that could prod you on and keep putting money away so you don't have that regret of not having enough money or starting too late.
Talking about some regrets that people could have as they're getting close to or entering retirement on Financial Insanity today. Another one is when you have started getting Social Security and maybe too soon. Yeah, that could be a regret that you have. What do you think about that?
It is. And, doing workshops and educational workshops, we started that Social Security is going to, because the way they're pulling money out, it could start to diminish.
Right.
For example, if you just go just a few short years ago, the Social Security was looking at in 2000 35, they're having a haircut. Then the seminar changed, 2034. Now the seminar changed, 2033. So they're burning cash. They've got to fix it. And then people are starting early, as you well stated, earlier than the full retirement age. For many people, it's 66 or 67. But people usually start taking it at 63. And of course, 3 out of 10 retirees really started receiving their benefit at 62, which is almost a 25 to 30% haircut. What I mean by that, Alex, let's say your full retirement benefit is $1,000 a month, to keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
At age 66. In my case, I'll use my age, 66. And here we got these young people are taking it at 62. So the $1,000 goes away. They take a lower amount because they're going to take it for a longer period. And now their monthly payment or their monthly Social Security went from $1,000. It could have been to $750. The question is, what is the value of $250? May not be a lot now, but with inflation, you could be behind the eight ball. So this is really important to make that right decision for you. Not asking your friends what they did, asking your numbers what you're doing, or talking to someone who's done this for their entire lives or almost their entire lives, or calling someone, asking them the pros and cons of taking it early or not. Because again, they're going to have to fix this deficit. In addition to fixing the deficit, on top of that, how does that affect Social Security? Is it going to go out, which is what people are nervous about? Is it going to be gone by the wayside? And there's some major tools they could use, 3 major tools they could use to fix it, which I am an advocate for. 3 tools they could fix right now.
Well, and Scott, one thing that people could regret is not partnering with someone like you when it comes to retirement. What do you say to people if they do have questions about, okay, how can I avoid, some of these regrets when it comes to my retirement?
I think they should speak, and this is really helpful, I hope, for those of you who are listening. Maybe get a second or third opinion. Maybe get someone who deals with taxes, investment planning, and of course, allocations, and then the legal planning. What happens if your spouse dies and you lose the highest of the two you lose the lowest of the 2 Social Securities? How does it affect your life? So there's 3 major areas that people just don't ask, and this is why they should give our studios a call, or call somebody and get a second opinion. If anybody tries to sell you the first time they meet with you, or try to strong arm you, or saying, you know what, they push you. No one likes to be pushed around. And there's heavy-duty closers. I think you need to take your goodies and go somewhere else. But get some opinions where they can look at everything, Alex.
Yep.
Not just Social Security, but in light of the 3-legged stool, your current savings, your IRA, 401k, 403bs, and then again, if you have a pension, and then Social Security. So again, you look at those 3 areas. One leg you kick out, you're going to hurt your spleen or your back if you fall. And this is what you don't want.
Well, and it could be a regret of not being able to really comprehend what retirement needs to look like. Now, you mentioned that 3-legged stool, and maybe, you regret running under that assumption that, hey, Social Security is going to be good enough. Hey, what I have in my 401k, maybe paired with that Social Security is going to be good enough. And for you, I hope it is. But just realizing the landscape now, Scott, that is just an important thing to know about, okay, how much onus is going to be on me to be able to generate my own income in retirement. That could possibly be another regret, is just not really foreseeing, what it's going to have to look like as far as that, so to speak, 3-legged stool.
Well, you think of breaking it down simple. Just go back 30 years ago, 1995, you got a Happy Meal was $2.28. Today, our Happy Meal is like, $6?
Sure.
This means the Happy Meal became the split meal, meaning you're going to take this Happy Meal and half goes to your spouse and half goes to you, because it's the same 6 divided by 2. Right. Well, that's $3. Well, Happy Meal, a full Happy Meal was $2.28 30 years ago. In other words, inflation and the purchasing power, this is what you need to pay attention to. So again, taking it too early versus not taking it too early, and with the pensions, not with having the consumer price index increase like the Social Security does, could affect your retirement as you get older. And this is a great discussion to have with your financial advisor that you're meeting with, that he or she really dives in the numbers and gives you, again, I call it the good news, the bad news, and the news you maybe need to hear to wake up and say, I don't want to be in regret. I need to start saving money. This is why this most famous number in the United States today is 609-488-4646. You like how the most famous phone number?
Sure.
Anyway.
Why not? Yeah. We just
but if you have those
that.
questions, don't put it aside. Don't put your head in the sand knowing that the Happy Meal is $2.28 and just right around the corner, you may have to split your Happy Meal because you ran out of money.
Yeah. Well, and real quickly here, let's talk briefly about debt. We're not going to necessarily say you got to be completely debt free. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's not. But talk about some regrets that people going to have as far as debt factoring into retirement.
That is a big factor, especially when you're planning a retirement. You're thinking, I'm out of debt. Okay, well, let's focus on the debt. How are we going to pay for the debt? Like the government's paying, quote unquote, for the debt, right? So how does that going to fit in? Should I pay my house off? And that is a loaded question. But again, being debt free, you're free to do what you want and when you want. The question is, should you pay off that low interest mortgage? Well, let's take a look at debt. Let's look at investments, and then let's look at the tax return. Maybe the tax write-off isn't beneficial, and you've got plenty of cash to pay it off. If you pay your house off, maybe you put the house into a trust so the government can't get it, an irrevocable trust. So now the crows and the clowns, the nursing homes can't grab it, an irrevocable trust. But again, we want to make sure get the debt off of your backload if you can. Now, depending what type of debt. But what happens is I've noticed so often is they're helping the kids out, wonderful intentions, great mom, great dad. Maybe they had a bad relationship with their kids and they want to catch up and maybe help them out financially and try to build that relationship with money and hopefully love. But again, debt. Don't go into debt for family. This is your retirement, not your kids' retirement. And you don't want to run out of money. And then if you have to move back in with the kids, I don't know. Maybe you can't move in with the kids. Maybe you got to go somewhere else, a nursing home. How do you protect those assets? Debt is a way of not protecting your assets unless you should pay them down. And this is what you need, what I encourage people to do when they meet with their financial advisor. Look at debt. What do we pay down? What do we not pay down? Should we keep it or not? And again, it leads into the question of the three-legged stool, which affects income. Income versus debt means quality of life.
That number again, Scott, for folks if they have questions.
Give us a call at our studios, 609-488-4646. Like many of you have done, you've called in, you've asked questions. You can leave with our office, and we'll call you back, no cost, no obligation. Which when people visit with us, Alex, the most important thing is they understand. Hide your checkbook, hide your wallet, write down your questions, make your time valuable when you visit with us, and we're not going to twist your arm to do business with us. Why? Because we know you got grandkids, and we know you got kids who knows this social media could say, well, Scott said, George said there's not going to be a cost. And all of a sudden we try to twist you and try to get you to do business with us. Your kids are going to put bad names on us, which is why we keep our word by saying, give our studios a call, schedule a time to visit with us on the phone or in person. Let's have a discussion. No cost, no obligation. Let's get to know each other. This is a relationship. This could be a long-term relationship, or it could be just a fact-finding for you to make sure you're not making the wrong decisions when it goes into retirement. And this is very important.
The number again for Scott and his team at McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Add.com for the website. When we come back, we're going to be talking about some retirement risks to avoid, and later on, it's the mailbag segment, getting to some of your questions. This is Financial Insanity.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money. But do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At McLean Advisory Group, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the McLean Advisory Group team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies are not associated entities.
And when you pay down debt, you don't pay down the highest interest rate. The biggest mistake is you pay the highest interest rate card when you should do the snowball effect of paying down debt.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Thank you so much for joining us for Financial Insanity. You know, it's easy to make assumptions about what goes into a legacy plan. Scott McLean going to help make it clear for you as we dive into some of the basics of creating a lasting legacy for your family. So important to so many of us. And if you have questions, that number is 609-488-4646 for Scott McLean and McLean Advisory Group, located in Waretown, 609-488-4646. And Scott, I do want to go over some basics because I know you deal with this all the time, but you know, I want to make sure people understand what the main things are here when we're talking about this legacy. So what are some important things to be thinking about?
You know, in creating a legacy, we call it the 3D approach to your financial planning: the dreams, the dollars, the investments, and the dynasty. And this, we're talking about dynasty right now, and I appreciate you asking that. I appreciate you guys listening to us at our radio station for now, I don't know, 14, 15 years right now.
Oh, yeah.
But I want to be clear on your dynasty, your legacy. Number one, the biggest challenge I find out when I do workshops, seminars, or when I meet clients, when George meets clients, or our financial advisors meets clients, is number one, they haven't dusted off their legal documents. They shove them in the drawer or their vault or their bank, and they don't read them. And that's problem number one. Problem number two, they forgot to double check what the lawyer wrote. They're trusting the lawyer wrote it up correctly, and he or she probably did. But when we review the legal documents once a year, did you hear me? Once a year, because maybe your son or your daughter is the executrix. Maybe they're the power of attorney. But maybe they died. Or maybe their health went south and you didn't change it. Or maybe the attorney didn't give a backup in case something happens to them. I can tell you, when George came to me the other day and we looked at some legal documents, I said, George, where's the backup? He goes, Scott, I can't find it anywhere. Let me see the darn thing. I don't believe you. And that George is a brilliant kid. I said, George, you're right. Did they wear that? Well, I just got it. They just dropped it off. I wanted to review it for them because they're investing with us, but I wanted to make sure they're buttoned up on our areas. If you don't review your legal documents, and I say once a year, not with your lawyer, but at least with your financial advisor, the reason people meet with their financial advisor, Alex, is because pretty much they're the ones who are going to get the first phone call, say, where's my money? What's going on? How do I get money out to take care of mom and dad? How do I take care of my children? And so, number one, your will, power of attorney, living will, healthcare directive, or maybe if you want to protect your money from the crows and the clowns, I call that the people that want to grab your money at the day you check out, or maybe your lights are dim and the nursing home wants to get it. This is why people call us and they come in so often because of this radio station, WBNJ. And when they come in, we review the legal documents in light of, you're clear, their financial planning and their financial instruments, because this is a problem. So again, you want to make sure you review the will, power of attorney, living will, healthcare directive. Maybe you have a Q-tip trust for those of you who are living with someone and you want to let them stay in your house. Maybe you have an irrevocable trust to protect the house from the nursing home. This planning is so strategic to you listening right now. You might think, well, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm fine. Okay, great, tough guy. Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah. But you never know when somebody pulls over, maybe you get a heart attack, or maybe they go to the doctor and get a checkup, or you get a blood test and all of a sudden, I don't say a cuss word. Maybe,
Sure.
that's right. something came up. Guys, take care of this legacy planning. This is the dynasty you're passing on, and how you pass it on could be extremely taxable or extremely tax-free, in addition to taxes as legacy. So, Alex, I don't know if I hope that sums up for you out there. By the way, if you've got a question, I have answers. George has answers. Our firm has answers. You know, being in the business now over 43 years, Alex, we've got a lot of people to call. We know who to call. And if you have an attorney, we'll call your attorney. We'll have a conversation. If we're doing finance with our firm, we're going to really make sure you, your spouse, your kids, or maybe your charity is buttoned up to keep it away from the IRS or from the crows and the clowns that show up at the funeral.
Well, and that's why it's so important, Scott, as we're talking about creating this lasting legacy, to have a strategic legacy plan. If you could talk about just the benefits there, because there could be some, costly missteps, some overtaxation and other things if you're not strategic about this.
Let me give you a hint, Alex. Imagine you have a 401k, those people listening. Maybe you have a 403b. Maybe you have a 457. And you're married and your spouse gets the goodies. But maybe you didn't put down the children. So let me tell you what happens. Or maybe your girlfriend or boyfriend. But you don't put them down as beneficiary. What happens in this case, 9 times out of 10, you pass away, but your wife or spouse died. So they're out. That's called the contingent. Who gets it next? And here is the problem. The money goes to the estate. The estate now has the money. They have to cash it in, and then they pass it on to the beneficiaries in the will. That could cause 100% taxation to the beneficiary. Let me make it real clear. Rather than the 10-year stretch they call, you can get the money and you can take the money out over 10 years, which would reduce the contingent beneficiary's money. But if you don't pay attention to the taxes in addition to the beneficiaries, or maybe the financial advisor didn't ask these questions, shame on them, not you, because he or she, the financial advisor, if you're using one, shame on them. They should have looked at it. I know they're not a lawyer. Why would a financial planner look at the taxes? Why would they look at the legal? Because it's part of our process as a fiduciary. But here's the blessed thing. Imagine it going to your sweetie pie, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, because maybe your wife or your husband died. Maybe you have someone you're living with. You want to pass it on, and they're not on there. Do you want to avoid the instantaneous tax? Or can we do it? We've done this, Alex, before, where the person received over $800,000 and it was 100% taxable. Thank goodness they came to us, because we're able to work around the laws, making some phone calls, and how can we avoid this tax nightmare, because the IRS is pretty clear. By the way, if you're out there and you haven't reviewed and dusted off your legal documents, please do yourself, your spouse, your kids a favor and write this down. This is very important. 609-488-4646. Again, 609-488-4646. Give our studios a call. We'll schedule a phone call. Maybe you have to come in and meet with our office. That's fine. But let's make sure you're buttoned up. And the reason we do this, Alex, is we want people to love us to death here. Over 40-something years in the industry, I can tell you one thing very clearly to you guys out there. Our firm continues to grow on warm introductions. Maybe you didn't do business with us, but I can tell you, when you come into our office, when you meet with us, you're going to feel treated right at home. We're going to make you feel right at home, whether you're a client or not, because we're not here to sell you. Hide your checkbook, hide your wallet, but come in with your questions. Write them down. Don't waste your time. Let's get right to the nitty-gritty so your dynasty, your legacy passes on. Your kids don't have to go to the courts to fix things. We can fix them with just a few drops of ink on a piece of paper, and just by a signature, you could protect your estate. But if you don't, you've caused a tremendous nightmare. And that's why at our firm, we have the lawyers here. You don't have to use our lawyers, but we can review things. We can ask questions instantly. So if we have a problem, we don't understand it, we can take care of it. 609-488-4646. Don't put this off. We're heading into a new year. We're heading into another year. We're heading into 5 years from now, and you've been putting it off. Don't put this off. I'd love to hear from you. If we can help you, we will help you right here at McLean Advisory, or Waretown, New Jersey.
Well, and Scott, it's all about making sure what happens with your dollars after you pass, what happens with it is what you wanted. This is not the kind of thing to make assumptions. Like you mentioned earlier, oh, well, I filled that paperwork out years ago. It's good. No, pull that thing out. And that's why, working with somebody like you, you're going to do that. You're going to bust that out every year. You're going to look at those beneficiary designations. You're going to go through that paperwork and make sure it's all accurate, because it's a very important thing. If you would, talk a little bit about your approach that your team takes. When it comes to estate and legacy planning, at what point does that come up with somebody's overall retirement plan?
I'm thinking of Josephine and Thomas that came into our office in 2017. I'll never forget meeting a beautiful, beautiful couple. And they had 4 beautiful kids, and we spoke about their estate, and they never reviewed their legal documents. So we did their financial, we looked at their taxes, and now we're looking at the legal and found out the 4 children, they actually had 5. And as I read the will and the power of attorney, the power of attorney is the one that directs the medical decisions, and the power of attorney is the one that directs the financial decisions. Well, his wife, Josephine's, her lights got a little dim to the point that she couldn't take action. And I'm thinking about it, and I looked at the backup power of attorney, because Josephine was now unable to make good decisions. Her lights were flickering. In other words, going dim. In other words, she wasn't all there. And I'm not being unkind if you're out there listening to me. I'm very, very serious, and I love people to death. But I'll never forget talking to Thomas and finding out that their daughter had died. She was the backup to the mother. Now, who gets involved? They have to go to the courts now to put this in place. And my question to you out there, husband could do it, wife can do it. The question is, who's the backup? And the good thing is, we could take care of this. The bad thing is, it could delay the process. You see, when Thomas died and Josephine is still alive and her lights are dim, there was no backup. The challenge in 2020 became horrendous. It became an attorney's happiness, because they get it now. Their taxi meter goes up. The billing starts. Are you paying attention to the legacy? This is your will, or maybe you have a revocable trust or irrevocable trust. Maybe you have beautiful documents, but they just haven't been reviewed. And so I find this so often, Alex, more than not, people don't pay attention. They think they're okay. Like a deer in the headlights, you're heading for a traffic accident. Fix this, guys. 609-488-4646. If you want to speak to me off the air, I'd love to talk to you. 609-488-4646. And our office will set up a time we can have a discussion, Alex.
Yes, and that is Scott McLean, McLean Advisory Group. This is Financial and Insanity, and coming up, some of the top legacy planning mistakes you want to try to avoid. That is on the other side.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money, but do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At McLean Advisory Group, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the McLean Advisory Group team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. You work hard for your money. and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies are not associated entities.
I call it the chicken and the egg. The chicken is the investment. The egg is the dividend. And so when the chicken pops out the eggs, if you don't need the money, let's reinvest the eggs and buy more chickens.
Man, that's just an excellent analogy, Scott.
We made it back. This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Thank you so much for joining us for another installment of Financial Insanity. I'm your host, Alex Dingman, alongside financial advisor Scott McLean of McLean Advisory Group, talking about some important stuff today, creating a legacy plan for your retirement and your family. If you have questions, the number for McLean Advisory Group in Waretown, 609-488-4646. 609-488-4646. And Scott, if you could, my friend, what are some basic documents that we probably want to consider for a good estate plan?
You know, a great estate plan is having a plan. That's number one.
Yeah.
Not just winging it, or I'll get to it, or I think about it, but I haven't done it. Number one, having a plan implemented, signed. The documents, number one is a will. Now, a will goes to probate. A will goes to probate. But a will is pretty much who gets the goodies. I call that real simple. The challenge I find inside the will, inside the goodies, is who's going to get it. And you may change it. You might have one son or daughter who's on the wrong side of the road. Maybe you need to get some trust agreement, which we'll talk about. The next one's called the living will. The living will, Alex, this is so important. It happened to my sister and I when Daddy was about to pass away. Mom said, "You guys handle it. Can't think about it." Mom was out of it.
Yeah.
And she said, "Scott, Sandy, my sister, handle it." Well, the living will says, do not resuscitate. Don't pass go. Don't collect $200. Goodbye. Well, Sandy wanted to feed Dad. And I remember, Sandy, I had this piece of paper. Daddy wanted to just go. He don't want to be fed. And he didn't want to be fed. And so Sandy wanted to feed him one night. And I remember get that phone call. I'm going to make Daddy comfortable. Her heart got involved, but her head left the paperwork. And I said, Sandy, please don't. I don't want to have to send a piece of paper to the hospital. Please don't feed Daddy. By the way, Daddy's going to haunt you if you do. He wants to go home. He wants to see his parents.
Right.
So living will. Next one's called the trust. You know, Alex, I'm not going to go through all 10 different types of trust, but there's more different types of trust. Sure. A lot of different types of trust. For example, maybe you have a son or daughter who every time they get a dollar, they're going to spend $5. That's called a spend thrift trust. Maybe you have a special needs child and you want the money to go to the special needs child, but if they get it, they're going to lose benefits. Well, we need a special needs trust. Or maybe you have a testamentary trust. And so or perhaps you want to avoid Medicare planning and Medicaid planning. Maybe you want an irrevocable trust. So each state is different. I know, Alex, this radio show goes across the country in several different places, but here at WBNJ Radio, the nicest thing is there are several trusts. Oh, by the way, I got to say something, Alex.
Yes.
I'm not an attorney. I work with a lot of attorneys. I know this business, but that's the attorney job. I want to make a clear disclaimer. I'm not an attorney, but I can tell you after reading so many documents, I want to make sure you that are listening to our show for 12, 13, 14, 15 years now, I can promise you, we want to make sure you're buttoned up. So you might want to trust. How do we protect our money? How can we possibly reduce taxes? How do we make sure the charity get it? The next one's called the power of attorney. This is the biggest mistake. The biggest mistake is the two different types of power of attorneys. Number one is called healthcare, the one who's going to talk to the doctors, make the arrangements. And the second one's called the financial power of attorney. I was a financial power of attorney for my mom and dad's estate. Sandy, my sister, was the healthcare power of attorney. So it was two of us. If Sandy passed away, there needs to be a contingent. This is where I find mistakes in the power of attorneys. There's usually always should be a contingent, but many times I've never seen a contingent. There's just one or the other. So the power of attorney, I believe everybody should have that across the board. If you've got kids 18 years or older, They need a power of attorney. I don't care if they have no money in their bank account. They need a power of attorney. And the last one is called the Advance Directive for healthcare reasons. What's the game plan? How are we putting this together? Again, we talk about the tremendous dreams you have because you're never going to get sick or die. The tremendous dollars you've saved because you're going to enjoy your wonderful retirement and travel the world and go here and there and everywhere. But then the next discussion is your dynasty. How do we make sure that all that hard work you, your spouse, your loved ones have saved over time, how do we make sure that's protected for your family, not the government or some crows and the clowns that show up at the funeral, Alex? So these are the documents. Please don't put this off. If you have more questions, 609-488-4646. You can ask for George. You can ask for Scott. You can ask my staff to get a hold of a quick phone call. We would love to help you and guide you along with your finances because they go hand in hand in addition to the tax returns to make sure you are totally buttoned up and your safety shield, your protection is in place, Alex.
Yeah, no, so important. And so, Scott, if I'm out here, I'm listening, what are some first steps? What do I need to do? I'm concerned. I want to do this right. I want to make sure I have a good legacy plan in place. What are some of the first action items, steps I should take?
The reason people don't do anything, Alice, because there's so many steps.
Right.
So let's break it down. I appreciate the simplest thing. Number one, have you read your documents? Do you have documents? And if you don't have documents, don't beat yourself up. Let's get it done. Number two, after you read through the documents, take a step. Maybe you have a free consultation at our firm or a firm. Usually lawyers are going to charge you. At our firm, we don't. You'll meet with myself or George. We are not attorneys, but we know what to look for. We know how to deal because we deal with finances. That's what we do. But we also deal directly with the attorneys, whether it's your attorney or someone else's. Number three, I'd encourage you, I just thinking of this off the cuff. I'd encourage you, go to our website, 609-488-4646. Go to the book, Three Blind Mice, How the Financial Planning Process Leads Your Money to a Mousetrap, and download chapter 11. I walk through all the areas of this, Alex. I just was thinking about this. Holy mackerel. This could be a great read. It's very simple to read. It's not legalese, so I can't understand what the heck the lawyer is writing. All right, time out. You need to understand something, the basics. And this is why people love coming into our office, because we're going to walk you through this valley you don't want to talk about. Or maybe the kid says, I don't want to talk about it, Mom and Dad. I don't want to talk about you dying.
All right.
Well, we need to talk about your lights going dim, because usually it's dim and out. Hopefully it's quickly out like my dad. But the question is, do you have the documents we just spoke about? Do you have them in place? Maybe you need to get them in place and have someone review them. This is why when people come into us, Alex, we look at their dreams, their dollars, and then the dynasty. Let's see what happens if we're in your life as a financial advising office for now, 44 years now, going on 44. The question is going to be, where do we stand? How can we help you make sure that you're buttoned up in every area? Do we have to call your attorney? Do you want to use the attorneys we work with? It doesn't matter. We don't get paid for that. We're not attorneys. But we can tell you one thing. In the financial world, we need to know the area of taxes and legal documents for making sure your dynasty is protected. So again, step one, I got a problem. I need to review it. Step two, maybe you read a couple things, read your documents, pull them out of the shelf, pull them out of the bank vault, read them. Number three, make an appointment. Maybe give our studios a call, 609-488-4646. Again, this is not just a sales gimmick. We're not going to charge you. This is totally complimentary. Maybe you're looking for a firm like ours. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're a financial advisor, didn't ever read them. To me, that's just double daggum dumb, because they should have paid attention to how the documents are, because most documents are incorrectly set up on beneficiaries. Let me make it real clear. Most all documents in the financial world are probably 9 times out of 10 are set up incorrect, because you think your will is in charge, but it's not. The documents, the financial documents, are number one, the ace of spades, followed by the will. You know what? You want to avoid probate? 609-488-4646. 4646. I promise you're going to love when you visit our firm, and you're going to help understand what to do. Alex, I'm not sure if this is clear, but step one, take care right now and make that decision. I need to review this.
Well, and Scott, one thing not to be overlooked, there can be some big tax consequences with these financial decisions, and it comes to legacy, inheritance. I mean, there's definitely some things you could do to better set yourself up for the future.
Depending on what president and what the laws are at the time, this is big. Understanding how taxes work about passing money on to the children. In the state of New Jersey, they had the gas tax, which eliminated the inheritance tax. So no reason to move to Florida for that reason. Maybe if you want to get warm and toasty, maybe you go to Florida or down south. But the other area is understanding the taxation options. You brought up a great point of the estate planning. Maybe your money's going not to your children because maybe you don't have children. Maybe it's going to charity, and maybe it's going to maybe a close friend, relative, niece, nephew. Okay, if that's the case, wonderful. What's the taxation? And the next question is maybe you're going to give money to a charity. You know what? I love it. It's better to give than receive. How about better to give and get more back? I wrote a paper on that for the churches. What a great way to pass on assets. So you want to use your IRA assets to pass on to the charity so they get it tax-free, even though, quote, it was taxable. Now it's tax-free. So again, if you've got charities, you do tax planning in addition to legacy planning, looking at all the areas. And then we go into the medical planning. How do we hide the money or protect the money from the inevitable crows in the crowns, the medical department called the nursing homes and facilities. So this is really important when they say that. So your beneficiary designations, are they up to date? Your beneficiary designations, can we avoid taxes? Your beneficiary designations, can we avoid probate?
That is Scott McLean, founder of McLean Advisory Group, located here in Waretown, New Jersey, in beautiful Ocean County, helping you shore up your retirement future, going over creating a lasting legacy. And if you have questions, that number, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Just add a .com for the website. And when we come back, it is one of our favorite segments as we're going to be reaching into that financial insanity mailbag, answer some of your questions.
Not again.
Oh, yeah, we're doing it, baby. That's on the other side. Thanks for joining us.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly does not. With near record inflation and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will America's future look like? What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? For more than 40 years here in the Jersey Shore area, Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group have seen uncertainty come and go. No matter what the future holds, Scott can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 609-488-4646 now to meet with Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group. If uncertainty is causing you to feel insecure, Scott McLean might be able to help. Call 609-488-4646 and schedule your visit today. Again, that's 609-488-4646.
Investment advisory services are offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Frankly, you could have your grandkids tweet out to your friends or go on the Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is and say, I got great information from Scott.
And you left out TikTok there as you're rambling off the different social media being used by the kids today. You got to remember that TikTok.
Oh, that's right. Tickety-tock.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group.
It is time now to open up our Financial Insanity mailbag. I want to remind you, if you have questions, the number for Scott McLean, McLean Advisory Group right here in Waretown, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. 46. Scott, are you ready to be put to the test with some of these mailbag questions that people have sent in? You ready?
I'm excited about it because we get so many calls, and I'm so glad we're able to share this with those. So I hope you guys listen up. I think this might be really helpful. I hope I can answer your questions there, Big Dog.
Yep. All right. Well, we will see. This first one is from Meredith and Tom. Looks like Manahawkin, New Jersey.
Manahawkin, New Jersey, yes.
All right. So we will see Meredith and Tom's question. So this is it's something you don't want to think about here, Scott, but it is wise to think about. They say if something happened to us unexpectedly, how do we ensure that our family will know exactly what to do? We do not want them arguing over who gets what and wondering what we would have wanted. So estate planning question there, Scott. How do you answer that for Meredith and Tom?
If you ever notice people avoiding estate planning, it's kind of like a jinx. I think about it. Like if I make a will, I just might drop dead tomorrow. I've heard.
Right. Yeah.
But let's be real. It's not really making a plan that doesn't make you immortal. It just makes your family miserable when you're gone. So in Meredith and Tom, Manahawkin, you asked a great question. If something really happened goes tomorrow, and God forbid your whole family would know exactly what to do, this is where I believe the financial advisor should be speaking to you on an annual basis to find out what's going on, what's the dynamic, what's the health situation. There's nothing worse than panicking and scrambling to find your paperwork, where most people got their stacks of paperwork on the table, or maybe you put it somewhere you don't know where. But the legal documents are very important, which we stress at our firm at the 3D Planning. We want to look at again, your dreams, then the dollars, but then the dynasty. And this is important. So again, Meredith and Tom, this is important to paperwork. This is critical. Most people put it off. I don't care if you're 18, you need it, or if you're 90, you need it, or 100. These documents make it simple for people to make decisions, Alex.
Yep. Very good advice there and good thinking, Meredith and Tom. Get on that for sure. All right. This question is Ted and Stacy. They're in Chatsworth, and they actually noted they are near Ocean Spray Farm.
Yeah.
But Ted and Stacy, they say, with all this talk about tax law changes, how do we know if our advisor is actually working to protect our retirement income, or are they possibly just crossing their fingers hoping the IRS takes it easy on us? What do you think about that?
You're speaking of cranberry sauce. I'm thinking about Thanksgiving. You really don't notice how much you miss it until you look forward to having it on your plate. So Ted and Stacy in Chatsworth, I know that's one of the places they make wonderful great stuff out there for the ocean spray. But, when you do the tax returns, the one reason why you know or don't know the advisor's looking is because he or she never looked at the tax return. So if you've been with an advisor, whether it's 1 year or 20 years, if you've been with them for 20 years and they never looked at it, it's almost like driving down the street and you've got one tire almost flat, but the rest are okay. Well, you might not feel that big of a difference, but there's a lot of drag on the car, a lot of drag on the engine. It's going to wear your more tires out. It's going to cause damage. This is the tax planning scenario that I look at all the time. Rather than crossing your fingers and toes and hoping everything will be wonderful by singing Kumbaya, well, let me make it very clear. Pay attention to those areas. And if they're not, maybe it's time that maybe they helped you grow your money into retirement, but maybe they're not the one to help you continue when it goes to the income and income planning. So can I have preferred stocks or dividend paying stocks that are more tax advantageous in my non-qualified versus my IRA? Should I change my investments around? How do I know I'm going to be okay? Well, the tax return is a great, powerful tool on a yearly basis to figure out how A, to pay less in taxes. B, should you put more in or less in taxes? You don't get that spanking when the Uncle Sam time comes around. And then, of course, are you paying too much in taxes with your investments? I call it phantom tax. For those of you that have mutual funds, they're called phantom tax. So be careful.
I love it. As we're going through the financial insanity mailbag, looks like we got time for one more question. So we'll get to Tanya and Susan, West Creek, New Jersey. All right. So They have worked hard their whole life, they say, and when the time comes, how do we make sure that our money actually goes to our loved ones and the causes we care about, and not so much to taxes, probate, government red tape that I hear you talking about on the show, Scott? How can they ensure their money goes to where they intended it to go?
Two areas. Number one would be the legal documents such as a will or a trust. That could be a great tool. In addition to beneficiaries on your paperwork. You see, when mom and dad was about to pass away, and we went to the bank, we opened up a bank account for my mom, and my sister's there, and the lady pushed a piece of paper in front of me, and she said, "Sir, would you sign this? You're taking care of your mom." I was a financial power of attorney. I said, "I won't sign it because it makes me joint on the account, which makes me own half of it, and I don't want my sister yelling at me." One decision. How do you set your estate up to make it simple? Number two, how do I avoid probate or taxes? Well, if I got beneficiaries on my CDs, on my checking account, savings account, like many of you better be listening. I hope you're listening, because this can go right to the beneficiaries directly. And lastly, maybe you have 2 children, 3 children, 4 children, and you want to make sure it goes to your children besides your spouse. So you put your spouse as primary if it's an individual account, or you put the children as primary if it's a joint account, and you put their names down there. And if you want, if let's say you have a son named Tommy, and if Tommy passed away and you want his money to stay in his bloodline, you would put Tommy equally divided per Stirpes, PERSTIRPES. Now, that's a lot of information if you're driving right now, but this is the best information I can help you with. When we review the dynasty section, 609-488-4646 is a great number to call to discuss your dynasty. That's calling our office to guide you through, how do I avoid probate? Should I put my house into a trust? I have a son or daughter that's going to blow money because you give them $1, they're going to spend $2. So we might need a special type of trust. Maybe you've got a special needs child. How do we protect that from Uncle Sam taking the money from the child? So these are wonderful questions, Tanya and Sue, that really, how do I avoid or reduce taxes, probate, and the government red tape? This is where you sit down, which I believe the financial advisor should have a relationship with your attorney. And that way they can have a good conversation without you getting stuck in the muck, is not sure what's going on, or at least be on the 3-way phone call or in the meeting with both the financial advisor and the lawyer. They need to talk to each other. And if they not, remember those 4 tires that you're driving down the road we just spoke about with another person? Well, again, now we may have 2 tires that are getting low, and your estate plan is going to fall apart because you didn't pay attention, or someone, not you, because you don't know what to ask, perhaps. Someone didn't pay attention. And for those listening right now, please write this down, 609-488-4646. That's our phone number. I will send you, or I'll have our staff send you, Chapter 11 in my book, where I call The Crows and the Clowns Show Up at the Funeral. It's about estate planning. If you'd like a copy of that section, please give our studios a call, 609-488-4646. I'll have my staff send you the PDF. Chapter 11 could really easily understand why my dad made me sign a document at 10 years old to pay off my bicycle that was only a $70 loan, but he made me pay 10% interest, made me pay a weekly payment, and it was in writing at 10 years old. What did I learn? Maybe you need your stuff in writing, Tanya and Susan and anybody listening, or maybe you've been putting this off. Don't put it off. Uncle Sam is going to grab as much as they can. Let's avoid Uncle Sam.
I love it. That number again, 609-488-4646. Thank you to everyone who sent in questions for our mailbag this week.
Yeah.
Super appreciate it. And great answers there, Scott. And we also just appreciate you for listening to another episode of Financial Insanity. And we hope you have a great week. Until next time, thanks for listening.
This radio program may contain information which has gone regulatory or other significant changes since its original recording. The information and views expressed on today's show is educational in nature and is not intended to be a recommendation for any specific investment, product, strategy, plan, tax, or legal advice. Information presented is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities.
This radio show is a paid placement.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly does not. With near record inflation and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will America's future look like? What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? For more than 40 years here in the Jersey Shore area, Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group have seen uncertainty come and go. No matter what the future holds, Scott can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 609-488-4646 now to meet with Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group. If uncertainty is causing you to feel insecure, Scott McLean might be able to help. Call 609-488-4646 and schedule your visit today. Again, that's 609-488-4646.
Investment advisory services are offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.